the Pittsburgh Sportsline. I know it's a chilly night here, but we got a lot of hot conversation here. And I got some bad news. Big Mike Butera, who's been a pretty good stand-in, he missed last week, and he texted me a couple hours ago that he's under the weather. So he's not going to be here to talk and bring his what's on his mind, what's in his mind, whatever we want to call it. So there's a shout out to you, Big Mike. Hope you get better real soon. And then about a half an hour ago, Smokin' Jim and I have the streak going on. 58 shows in a row. It's just between us. We beat Joe DiMaggio in his 57. So Smokin' Jim, his car broke down in Braddock, and he said he's safe, and he'll be here for the next show, but he's not going to make it tonight. So I got Chip the Prophet Hayner here, and you got Al Levine, the talking machine. We're glad you're watching. I heard I have a couple new viewers from Giant Eagle, so a shout out to Kevin. Hope you're watching the show. You're going to get to see two prolific conversationalists. We're going to do the best we can. We're even going to talk sports tonight. So with that, we usually start our first segment out with what's on your mind. So Chip, what's on your mind?
What's on my mind? Thanks, Alan, and good evening, everybody. What's on my mind is, an unusual occurrence is happening this year in college football. The Notre Dame Fighting Irish are actually going to get a chance to play for the national title. The only thing that bothers me about the Notre Dame Fighting Irish playing for the national title, it's going to be 43 days before they play. I think I think some of the players may forget, how to play football by the time they play next. But the Notre Dame Fighting Irish will be the sacrificial lamb for the annual SEC representative this year, which will either be Alabama, Georgia, or possibly the University of Florida. Being that the BCS is tilted in the favor of the SEC, which happens to be the big moneymaker for the NCAA, it'll be interesting to see which one of those teams will pan out. Georgia's playing Alabama this weekend for the SEC title, so it's either going to be one of those two teams that are playing Notre Dame. The only other undefeated team in major college football this year was the Ohio State Buckeyes, who, thanks to Jim Tressel, were ineligible to play for the Big Ten Championship or to be eligible for bowls. I mean, now Ohio State knows what it feels like to be a Pitt Panther because they're not bowl eligible either. Oh, wait a minute. They do have one more game left, and there is a chance that they maybe they get to go to the BBVA
XYZ
bowl, or maybe they'll go to the Santa Flush Tidy Bowl. Who knows? But either way, just pull the handle and they'll.
they may get it, Chip. One more win. You know how that works.
But this college football wasn't the only thing that was going on this past weekend. This past weekend also, we had the high school championships, the Whippeal championships down at Heinz Field. There's 4 deserving champions. Aliquippa won their 15th Whippeal championship, which is a record. The Clareton Bears set a state record for consecutive wins. They won their 60th game in a row. North Allegheny won its 3rd consecutive Whippeal title in the Quad A, which is the first time that's happened. And West Allegheny's Bob Palco became one of just a handful of coaches that have won 6 WPIAL championships. So congratulations to all these teams, and wish them the best of luck in the state playoffs. We'll see which, I'm thinking at least 3 of these 4 teams have a very good chance of winning state titles. And why not all 4? We'll follow those and we'll keep you informed. And the other thing that kind of happened, which I found kind of amusing, and the Detroit Lions play football on Thanksgiving every year. And it seems like they've got a dog and pony show now that's run by their head coach, who's a buffoon, and their defensive lineman, who has the moniker of the dirtiest player in the NFL. His name is Nanakum Suh. Now, the buffoon, Jim Schwartz, is really a shining example of what a head coach should be. He cost his team a victory against the Houston Texans on Thanksgiving Day by not knowing what the rules are. And I think that's kind of a ridiculous thing that the head coach of the football team doesn't know what the rules are. But there's a rule in the NFL that in any scoring play that happens during the course of the game will be automatically reviewed. Unless, of course, the coach inadvertently throws the red flag, which negates the replay and is an unsportsmanlike penalty, so his team gets a 15-yard penalty. Justin Forsett was involved in a very long touchdown play, an 81-yard touchdown. He did get tackled. His knee and his, I believe, thigh touched the ground. The ref didn't blow the whistle, so he continued to play. He was clearly down, and all the replays showed that he was down, but the coach, and his anger that the play wasn't called down or it wasn't whistled dead, threw the red flag, negating the replay, which allowed the touchdown, which ended up being the winning score. So, this is one of the things that amazes me about pro football. A couple of weeks ago when the Rams and the 49ers played to a tie after a 15-minute overtime period, the players were getting ready to play a second overtime.
That's happened before. Some of these players, and who was the quarterback that McNair?
Yeah.
They asked him what happens, and he's like, "Oh, you keep playing. It's sudden death."
No,
and he was wrong during the season.
And during the regular season, there's a 15-minute overtime period, and if neither team scores during that period, the game ends up in a tie. But to get back to Mr. Sue, he's a little over exuberant when he plays. Is that a good word to use?
Yeah.
That's my 50-cent word for the day.
Thank you.
But he was being blocked, and as he was being taken down, his leg whips around, and at the very end, while he's in the vicinity of the quarterback, he kicks his leg out and happens to kick the quarterback of the Houston Texans in the groin. Which of course caused him to drop like a rock, and of course he said that wasn't intentional. And if you watch the play, he was being taken down, and if he had just fallen like a normal person wouldn't have been any problem. His foot may have glanced off of his upper thigh, but if you see at the very end, he throws his foot out like just to get a dig into
doesn't look like a
something.
Natural movement.
Doesn't look like a natural movement to me. And of course, he's as innocent as the day is long. And the thing that I find most disturbing about this is that this guy has a history of dirty play, questionable hits and tactics. He was suspended 2 games last year for the foolish incident he purveyed on the Thanksgiving Day game last year. So, he repeats it this year, and the NFL decides that, well, we're not going to suspend him. Which means that he's subject to a fine. Now, the question I have, and here's where the conspiracy theorists come in, is why is it that a player like James Harrison gets fined $75,000, gets suspended, when you've got people like Ed Reed, who's a multiple offender for hits to the head, gets his suspension taken off the table, and he's only fined $50,000. And what's Mr. Sue going to be fined this week? I just don't see where the consistency is, and why is it that James Harrison is the poster boy for all these hits to the head? I mean, for all I consider, isn't that what Mr. Sue did?
Well, here's the question I have for you. There's supposed to be 2 O's.
Mm-hmm.
I'll let you finish it.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
Roger Goodell believes himself as being God, and he the thing about when they had the new collective bargaining agreement, the only team that didn't ratify it was the Steelers, because the Steelers were against him having the authority that the owners have given him to adjudicate player fouls. My only thing is, if you're going to do it, be consistent. There should be a tier: first offense, X number of dollars; next offense, third offense, suspension; fourth offense, how about a year-long suspension, or how about just throwing them out of the game? I mean, there is no consistency. Why is one guy's hit to the head a $15,000 fine, and another guy's $50,000, and another guy's $75,000? It's all over the place. There's no guidelines, and how are we supposed to understand how this is done?
Well, we may come back to some of these subjects since we have some time to fill without our other guests.
So that was on my mind.
Is that all? Chip, is that all that's on your mind? I forgot what's on my mind. Hold on, I got to dovetail with some of the things that you said there. One of the things that bothers me is when they make these new rules, like we're talking with Schwartz, that's a dumb penalty in a sense. I could see the 15 yards, but it changes the outcome of the game. It's clearly a guy is down on the field. And what should have happened in my mind, if they do it, they have to at least change the rule a little bit. If the coach is going to be dumb, not know the rules or players or whatever else, get the penalty, but let the play be the proper call. And that's what I feel, because why should it go to the extreme that now this changes what the game would be like? The guy did go down, didn't run for a touchdown, so call it that way, but then penalize them.
And I agree with you to a degree, and this is one of the things that I didn't touch on, but the NFL said that they're going to look at this rule and look about changing it in the middle of the season, and I think that would be totally the wrong thing to do. If they want to make a rule change, okay, end of the season and implement the rules for next year, okay? The rules are what the rules are. And I think the lesson to be learned here is that each of the coaches and maybe some of the players on the team need to pick up the rule book and find out what the rules are so that they don't cost their team a game. The lesson to be learned here is, understand what rules that we're playing under. But if they, to be honest with you, yes, that play should have been reviewed. That touchdown should have been called back. But,
But that's why they have the reviews in there, and that's why I say when they make a rule, I understand it's hard and fast. It's real simple. To me, I like black and white, especially when it's rules, because you don't need all the gray, because then look at how the referees swallow their whistles at times. Even on that play. Do you know what the theory was when you hear the head referee talk about it? He goes, they knew the play would be reviewed, so they would rather let it go its course and then have them review it. But then you have a dumb head football coach, or maybe an ignorant one who didn't study the rules.
And he may be both of those things.
Well, I'm going to be nice tonight. So.
Yeah, because it was funny because when the Detroit Lions had a little bit of success, they were acting the fools last year. Yeah. They were being a bunch of prima donnas, and now this year, the tides have turned on them. One of the things that Chuck Noll used to always impress upon is act as if you've been there before. Sure. You don't have to have a wild celebration in the end zone because you know what, this isn't going to be your first time there. There's going to be many more trips.
Hopefully, hopefully.
But that's generally the way it is.
Since I jumped in on what's on your mind stuff, I didn't really put mine out. So
we're
having a discussion there. Well, what's on my mind is I first of all want to thank Level 20, Tracy and Colin, for having a great meal, great food. We had a great crowd. And I wanted to give you a report, and we'll touch on the fighters a little later, but we got the Who Can, Mexican, and we got Team Vasquez. And I wanted to report that Sammy Vasquez knocked out a tough competitor in 2 minutes and 27 seconds. And that was quite an accomplishment for him to move on up the ladder. And it's making it a little tough for him. You would think when you have success that you'd be able to fight more, and he wants to fight every month just about. That's the type of big-hearted kid, tough fighter he is. He's a well-rounded individual, trains, good family man, everything good about him. He's going to have trouble trying to get somebody to box with him. And then the other guy, the Greek, Andreas, he knocked his guy out with that gyro right in the 4th round. Oh. So that was quite impressive. We saw some video on it. I wish we had video that we could show you on that, but you can see it on YouTube. It'll only be up there for a little while.
A few more days because they want to get their next opponents. And the thing is, guys don't want to fight these two young men because they don't want to lose. These two young men, I'm telling you right now, keep an eye on these two young men. Sammy fights locally quite a bit, and you need to get down to see him. This young man is going to be a world champion, and you can watch him develop. He's 6-0 now. The guy he fought Saturday night was 6-1 with 6 knockouts. So he had moved up to to 6 rounds, but he didn't really get the chance to get much work in because he didn't make it out of the first round. He had this guy face down on the mat, and he was sound asleep.
His trainer, Bob Healy, Muscles, was talking about he needs to work. They're even getting tempted with 8-round fights, and even like Sammy says, he goes, well, I haven't gone my 6 rounds yet. So they have quite the dilemma. But to me, we're going to promote these guys. You'll hear a lot about them. Smoking Jim Frazier and Mike Migliore have predicted that Sammy at least will be a world champion, and they think Andreas, with the knockout punch he has, he could do the same thing. It was just his first pro fight for Andreas. So I can't wait to go to the gyro shops. I'll even buy a gyro there because when you see this guy, how strong he is, he's just like an ox, and that punch he has, he showed me the video. It's just awesome.
He threw an overhand right that just dropped this guy. He fell through the ropes. It was pretty impressive.
Right, so these are good guys. We got to see that. You have to come down to Level 20 come next week, Monday night, 7:30 to 8:30. Come on down there. We have a lot of excitement. There's $7 burger and fries. You can watch Smoking Jim and myself. Well, not this past week, but we do nibble on a few fries there because they are that good, and they have a lot of great menu items on there for you. You can ask Chip's wife Stephanie and friends. So they all like the food there. We have a nice crowd. And that was what's on my mind. Now let's get down to some Steeler talk, because we covered it last night, but I don't think we gave some of our insights on the Steelers. So I'm going to ask you, what do you think about that?
What do I think about the Steelers? You know, I'm sitting here listening to the talk shows over the last couple of days, and, you know, they run the whole gamut of things like, oh my goodness, you know, Charlie Batch, he's washed up, he's over the hill, he doesn't have any arm, you know, and you know, Charlie Batch is a serviceable enough backup quarterback. He could not lose games for you. You know, he did throw 3 picks this past Sunday. But, you know, the biggest problem that the Steelers had was, you know, they just kept on putting the ball on the ground. And, you know, you can't have 8 turnovers and expect to win many games in the NFL. And, you know, and you think about it, you know, the Steelers dropped the ball 8 times, or 8 turnovers during the course of the game.
Gave it away, right.
And, you know, and they were in that game until the very end. And it's just a testament to how lousy of a team that Cleveland is and how badly this loss stung because, you know, we actually could have won that game. 1 or 2 plays, and we could have won that game even with 8 turnovers.
I gave my prediction like I did. I said, we play to their level. Charlie Batch will play okay. He won't lose the game. Well, I was wrong, folks. The running backs didn't help much. We couldn't run. The line was having trouble. I mean, look at Adams and everything else. Some of it's so sad there. And Cleveland kept us in the game in spite of it, like we said. And even with Charlie's interception with a few minutes to go, we still got the ball back and had a chance to win, even after that, which is, it gives me hope that if Charlie does play, and, you know, we'll talk about the rumors with Ben and, you know, whatever else coming back.
Well, one of the things that have always been said about, and, you know, and this is true of the Pirates, and you know, what's been said about Tomlin. I know Smoking Jim is quite harsh on Mike Tomlin and the Steelers just in general, but, you know, they say the players are not being held accountable. And, you know, one of the things that if you notice the way the game went, Mendenhall was in, he fumbled the ball, you know, he had 4 carries, he had 2 fumbles. He fumbles the ball, he gets benched, they put in Redmond. He gets his chance, he fumbles the ball, they pull him out, they put in Redmond. And, you know, and if you're going to have a running back by committee and these guys are going to live in fear, you can't really have a successful running game. You know, what they really needed to do, and I think Mike Tomlin addressed that in his press conference today, is they need to name one guy as you're going to be the starting running back this week so that the guy could prepare for it and give the guy a little confidence and let him play. So Mike Tomlin today announced that Jonathan Dwyer will be the starting running back. Isaac Redmond will be 2nd string, and Rashard Mendenhall will be 3rd string. Now, you know, I don't know if Mike Tomlin's trying to send a message to Rashard Mendenhall, but, you know, this is a first run.
He has to, because when you're friends with players like that, eventually you have to go, I got to draw a line there. And he has to tell these boys, because they are young men, that here's what it is if you want to play. And you could see the frustration in him. He doesn't like to lose, but the way they lost. And he knows they could have won it at the end with even a slight effort. Look at what they did with Mike Wallace, who wants to be one of these top 5 receivers. To me, he's gutless. He might have fear. I've heard on a couple talk shows that certain guys play with fear in their last year of a contract or when, you know, they're afraid to get hurt. Well, he got those alligator arms and he's not trying to do anything, and it's terrible. You know, so it's costing the quarterbacks.
So benching around Mendenhall now, you know, 1st-round draft pick, he's supposed to be the stud back. He's going to bruise his ego a little bit. And he also did not name Mike Wallace as the starting wide receiver. Right. He said they were going to be co-starters. It's going to be Emmanuel Sanders and Mike Wallace. And I think what Mike Wallace needs to do to continue to play this year, he's going to earn his way back onto the field. Now, people say, oh, I don't see him not putting effort in, and that's a bunch of bull crap, because he's out there and he's just going through the motions. You know, he's only had 2 catches of over 40 yards this year for touchdowns. He's got 47 catches for 6 touchdowns this year. Okay, we're going into the 12th week of the season. Those are horrible statistics. If you want to be paid like Megatron, like Larry Fitzgerald, and other top receivers in the game, you need to produce like them, and simply you're not doing that. And I don't know if it's you don't want to be here, but anybody that's played for the Steelers and has gone on to play for any other team in the NFL, they realize how unique a situation that they have playing here. And the grass isn't always greener, and he's
going to be a millionaire regardless. He will get millions. He got millions this year. It wasn't what he wanted. He's not big money.
Yeah.
The other guys got the big money, but the problem he has, you have to, whatever that fear, whatever that issue is, you got to put that away, and you got to help your teammates out. And sure, he says some of the right things. When he didn't have a good game, it's a team game. At least we won. But I don't believe him. He doesn't seem sincere, and that's part of the problem. And you wonder, what do the other players think about it? Sure, he stretches a field. Sure, he makes some catches. But all the top receivers get that second foot down. Well, he hasn't done that consistently.
No, and one of the things that you got to admire about the Steelers is they're not going to badmouth. There's no dissension among the group. Nobody's going to badmouth him. The coach isn't even going to badmouth him because that's just not their style.
Right.
But
I'm sure there's some conversation in the clubhouse there in the dressing room.
And you know what? And that should be kept. That should be kept in the locker room.
And I would hope so.
Because that's that's a personal matter. Being on a team, it's like being part of a family. And you keep family business, behind closed doors. You don't broadcast that out. But he really does need to step it up. And looking at Trent Dilfer yesterday, ESPN analyst. Not really one of my favorite players in the world because the only thing he's noted for was being the starting quarterback on the 2000 Baltimore Ravens. Right. And basically that was a Super Bowl that was won by Ray Lewis and the Baltimore defense. And really, the quarterback just went out there, handed the ball off to Jamal Lewis. But he stated on TV last night that he believes that the Pittsburgh Steelers are going to go on a run and play in the Super Bowl this year. And I know there's a lot of people that will be laughing out loud about that, but he's the one that said that he sees the Steelers as being the New York Giants of last year and the Green Bay Packers of the year.
What do you think, Prophet? That's when you start calling that.
I'm sitting here thinking, Ben has started throwing the ball yesterday, okay?
Right.
Mike Tomlin has not ruled him out as a possibility to start, And you look at who we're playing over the next 5 weeks. We've got Baltimore this week.
Right.
You've got the San Diego Chargers. We've got Cleveland. We've got Cincinnati, and
I forget who.
I forget who else.
But it's 4 games that.
But is it a real stretch that they could win out? I find
last
it hard
night
to
on
believe.
this show, there's another guy that agrees with that. Me.
Yeah.
I'm the guy that told you for the simple fact I thought they'd win this game, so they'd be okay. I thought they could lose 2 with Baltimore with no problem because the way they play inconsistently and with Ben getting hurt, who knows if the aorta is safe now. I'm hoping it is, but I would rather not see Ben come back like last year where he come back to San Francisco and it was terrible. He actually cost us a win there.
Yeah, but you know what? This is the Rocky story. Ben loves to play this, the savior of the team. He pulls himself up off the mat in the 15th round, and he knocks out the champ. And and if anybody thrives in the spotlight like this, coming back from the injury sooner than anybody expected, saving the day, saving the season for the team. Yeah, it's a great story, but
do it
some of the
after
problems,
next week.
Some of the problems that existed, some of the problems that led to Ben being crunched, the way he was by the Kansas City Chiefs is with the offensive line. They brought David DeCastro back, but you have to take into account he hasn't played a down of football since training camp.
He might be better than half of the line there. Who's the guy that's going to be coming in for Adams or something?
Beauchamp or something like that.
He's
going to be the starter because he's played. And
forget about Heath Miller now. What do you think Heath Miller's going to have to do? He's going to be blocking.
Yeah, if you got Heath Miller on your fantasy team, it'd be a good week to put him on the bench. He's going to be protecting the quarterback.
And bring Will Johnson over to help a little bit, right?
But,
he's a big guy.
Willie Colon didn't play last week, and he was the inspirational leader of the offensive line when we were on our 4-game winning streak.
Right.
And the Steelers, to win the game in Baltimore, they have to run the football effectively and not turn the ball over. If they turn the ball over, they don't have a chance. I think if they can do those two things, you know, the Baltimore Ravens don't impress me. You know, how they won that game this past weekend against the Chargers. How does anybody convert a 4th and 29 with 1:40 left? I don't think there was a single person on the Chargers defense that missed that tackle. And, you know, and
you got to give credit to Ray Rice. He did it on his own.
They tackle him, and the game is over.
Right.
Okay, and Baltimore, you know, Baltimore loses. They, you know, they say a cat's got 9 lives, but man, I'm telling you what, I think they've used just about all of them up this year.
Well, for all us conspiracy theorists, there's more to it than that. It makes you wonder when you look at some of these games. I mean, between guys missing field goals that never miss them when they're 30-some yards out, and then you see a run like that, 29 yards, where there was nobody really coming after him. And when they did, they missed. Like it looked almost like it was staged. And I hate to say that because I'm not a Baltimore fan, but it did look like it was staged.
Well, and you know, when you think of this, the San Diego Chargers fired Marty Schottenheimer. His record was 14-2 his last season there, and they picked up Norv Turner, and they thought that he was going to help to get them over the hump. And the Chargers have imploded, and I don't know how Norv Turner keeps a job as a head coach in the NFL. He must have film on somebody.
I think you said pictures before.
Yeah,
we've had this discussion.
You know, I mean, let's talk about some of the NFL coaches that are going to go by the wayside. Unfortunately, Andy Reid's going to be gone this year, and you know, it was a question I was reading on a website today. You know, is Philadelphia's 7-game losing streak Andy Reid's fault, or is it his players' fault? And I can't believe that a guy that's as good a head coach as Andy Reid for 15 years can all of a sudden not know how to coach a football team. Of course it's the players' fault. And here's what the problem is. You don't fire the players. You fire the coach, okay? Because the owner of the Philadelphia Eagles spent a lot of money putting a lot of high-priced talent in there.
Right.
And he's going to, you know, he's mortgaged the future of the Eagles to try to win now. And so, you know, Andy Reid's going to be gone. Norv Turner's going to be gone. The guy in Carolina, what's his name? Ron Rivera.
Yeah, Ron Rivera.
Even
though they won last night.
Yeah. Well, Christ, you got bad and worse playing each other last night. You know, Ron Rivera's going to be gone. Chan Gailey's on the chopping block up in Buffalo.
Yeah.
You know, there's a laundry list of coaches that are no longer there. Jason Garrett down in Dallas. You know, he's on real thin ice now. You got Paul is it Holmgren?
Yeah.
Mike Holmgren. Yeah, Mike Holmgren. He got axed as the general manager in Cleveland. He wants to coach again. He's already had discussions with Jerry Jones. You know, I don't know how well of a fit he's going to be because Jerry Jones couldn't live with Bill Parcells. Once again, you got two egos there.
Look at Sean Payton, Mako to Dallas. We were talking about those rumors.
Sean Payton's on
because he's a free agent now.
Yeah, he is.
That could change.
So there's you know, and then you've got Romeo Crennel, who never should have been given the head coaching job in Kansas City, and that's just a simply atrocious team there. You know, and then you know, we talk about some of Bill Cowher's ex coordinators.
Right.
Yeah, you know, Ken Wisenhunt in Arizona. How long is he going to be given to do that team? Because here's the thing about Ken Wisenhunt. He was an offensive genius when he was head coach or when he's offensive coordinator with Ben Roethlisberger as his starting quarterback. Okay, he goes to Arizona, and you know, all of a sudden he's an offensive genius there, and he's got Kurt Warner. So here he's coaching 2 Hall of Fame quarterbacks, and he's a great offensive mind. The minute that he stops coaching one of these Hall of Famers, can you remember the name of any of the other quarterbacks that he's got? Arizona's horrible offensively. They've got the best receiver in football, Larry Fitzgerald, that nobody hears about anymore. And I'll tell you what, Larry Fitzgerald is a stand-up guy. He doesn't complain. He suits up every week.
He just re-signed last year with them.
Yeah,
so, I mean,
he suits up every week. He gives you 110% effort. And, you know, that guy deserves to, you know,
to have somebody throw the ball to him.
Yeah, it's just somebody.
And have a winning team, maybe.
So, you know, I mean, how good of a coordinator you are is really dependent on, you know, how good the talent that you have. You know, Bruce Arians great offensive coordinator with here in Pittsburgh. Kind of outstayed his
outlived his welcome.
Yeah, outlived his welcome here. Now, fortunately, he took over for Chuck Pagano in Indianapolis, but look what he's got. He's got number 1 draft pick overall.
Right.
Andrew Luck. So this kid is an up and coming franchise quarterback. So he's fortunate that he's got that. But what would he be doing with John Skelton?
He'll be one of these guys that'll get a chance to be a coach. Because look what's going to happen. Pagano's going to come back. He'll take over the team. Arians will most likely move on. He'll finally get offered that. Because it brings the point up. I was watching ESPN and they were talking about interviewing him. And Arians said he thought he would get something after one of the Super Bowls. Then after the second one, he thought he'd get an offer. He got no offers. Mm-hmm. So people were realizing, like what Chip's bringing up to you, that, okay, it's a lot of the players that are making him look so good, especially Big Ben. Now, I'm going to go off subject a little bit, but my biggest fan, my sister in Jersey,
mm-hmm. Sure.
She asked me a thing, and I brought it up last night. I didn't mention her name then, but Hope brought it up. She goes, I'm watching these games about Big Ben, so he might be a great quarterback, but why didn't anybody mention about his child? And again, it comes about his personality. Look at how he rubs all these people wrong. But he's a great athlete. He makes the offensive line at least adequate. He helps the team out. He's won these games. But then you don't hear him saying about his baby. He just had a baby. And with the elite quarterbacks, they always talk about their girlfriend or wife.
And I'm going to touch on the Ben Roethlisberger thing in a second, but we were talking about Bruce Arians. And
right.
Okay, let me tell you something. The guy that owns the Indianapolis Colts, his name is Irsay. He's the same guy that moved the Indianapolis Colts out of Baltimore under the cover of darkness.
What are you trying to say?
Pagano, you're done in Indianapolis. Arians is going to be the head coach. He's playing all, well, we're here for you and help you out. But, as soon as he knows you're healthy again, you're toast.
Here we go. This is Chip the Prophet Hainer, and that's an OR, not an ER.
That's the way the Ursays do things. There's no loyalty and there's no love lost. It's
Chip, you're brutal. You're brutally honest.
Not nearly as brutal as the Ursays are. But to speak to the Ben thing, Ben Roethlisberger came out of nowhere, Miami, Ohio, and he's the 11th pick in the draft, and and he came on the scene real big, and this kid got all this attention, all this notoriety, and he was quite a prima donna when he was abusive to people. He'd go out to clubs. He would be abusive to the wait staff. He would be just a moron, refused to sign autographs. Like I'm Ben Roethlisberger, I walk unwanted, and a lot of people don't like the way he's behaved. And then there's the celebrated incidents of him and his discretions while he's under the influence of alcohol, and we don't need to get into the specifics of those. So a lot of people don't have a lot of love for what Ben's done. Now, he's been saying and doing all the right things since his last incident, and then that was his come to Jesus moment. It was,
Well, to me, here's how I am. To me, I don't have many heroes in sports, like you've heard me talk about. He's not a hero of mine. He's just a great athlete, and he seems scripted when he talks and has these interviews now, and even these camps.
He's coached.
And that's okay. If he's paying a coach, we have in other sports, they have to watch the player, they're their bodyguard to keep them out of trouble. If somebody's doing that, then that helps all of us, because then we can sort of let that go and then watch and enjoy the sports.
But with him, I do believe people should be given second chances. And I think he is in the process of trying to earn his. I know there are some people that just say he's a dirtbag and he's always going to be a dirtbag, and they don't ever want to give him a chance. But you know what? He's turned his life around. He's keeping his nose out of trouble, and he's keeping out of the public eye, which is really what you do, because as a professional athlete like that, you're a marked man. People.
Well, the difference nowadays too, you're under 24/7 media coverage. You got all this Twitter, you got Facebook, you got you name all the social media. You got people with videos, cameras. It's not even paparazzi. You got all these people, and then they're not the brightest guys. They start tweeting, so then it puts them in a bad light there. So they use the social media to put out how
Holmes tweeted his way right out.
Exactly. So if somebody's coaching Ben or any of these other athletes, then I'm happy that that's happening, because we don't need that type of stuff. The good guys, you're not going to hear all the good things that they do in the community. But the bad guys, they earn their reputation. I just, the biggest fan brought that up from Jersey when she watches this on YouTube. By the way, you can call in on the show. And we don't need it between Chip and I. You don't have to interrupt us, because we barely missed a beat here. But I want to say 412-831-3304 if you want to call. And I'd also like to thank our producers, Aaron Ward, Devin Shea, and we had a cameraman in here, Matt, but he's leaving us all alone here. So I just wanted to add some insights on doing a live show, that we're here by ourselves. They locked the door. They don't trust us. They think we might run, but we're not going to run here. We still have some more conversation to go. Chip and I are just warming up right now.
Yeah, sure we are. So we pretty much talked our ears off about the Steelers, and the next subject, and I know this is a touchy subject for Alan, because I know of his strong ties and commitments to the unions. But we've got the NHL players lockout, okay? And I want to make sure that I emphasize this correctly, because the players didn't strike. And I don't side with the players, nor do I side with the owners on this, okay? The owners, I believe, are not even making an attempt to negotiate, because they've come in and their original demands have not wavered a bit. They won't bend on them. And now they're going to bring in a mediator, and a mediator is going to accomplish absolutely nothing, because the owners don't want to negotiate, okay? The owners feel that they made an offer of what they can afford to do, and the players feel that this is negotiable. This is the way things are. I think Donald Fehr is giving the players bad information, and because the players, all they want to do is play. And to be honest with you, at the end of the day, they'll take whatever the owners have to offer. But I think if Donald Fehr has anything to do with it, by the time they get to an agreement, what's going to end up happening is the players are going to be hurt even more, because the players may get an agreement that they can feel they can live with, and then what may end up happening is the NHL may shrink by 4 teams. Okay, there are teams that are in markets, in the southern markets, the sunny markets, that don't draw very well, that are being hurt immensely right now. Think about the guy that just bought the Phoenix Coyotes. They had a long time trying to sell that franchise. They finally get somebody to invest in that franchise, and this guy needs to make every dollar he can off his investment. And all the rest of the owners say, we're locking out the players, so this guy's hemorrhaging money. Okay, so if you lose 4 teams, guess what? How many players are going to lose their jobs? Okay, so they're going to hurt the players in the long run, and it's going to hurt the game. I think at this point, what we should see the fans doing is getting a little upset with the owners, because, how are we going to break this log jam? Something's got to give, and if the owners, the owners know that the fans are a bunch of suckers. They know that once they come to an agreement, even if they cancel the whole season, the fans will be back, and you'll buy the tickets, and you'll buy the jerseys, and and everything else. And the only way to teach these people lessons, is for the fans to stand up and voice their displeasure with what's going on, because the players want to play. Okay, and
Chip, I can't disagree with you as a fan. I do have some points that I always bring up here.
Sure.
And part of it is the owners, for some reason, they wanted 50-50. The players, one of their 3 offers, and really their final one, they did offer 50-50 with the players getting the guaranteed money. And even Chip, as a fan, not taking a side, understands that makes sense. Well, now I've dug a little deeper here, because they're going into federal mediation. I've been through that. I'm not going to talk about history of that. That's in another era. But guys that know me, like Chief and other guys from the Post-Gazette, they know the story. Federal mediators come in there, try to work a deal, but they usually do it face-to-face. Here's what I heard today. They're calling in both sides. So you know what? I got to agree with the prophet here. Nothing's going to happen.
Exactly.
So if that's the way it is, cooler heads, and the fans have cooler heads here. If you see 50-50 from the owners, 50-50 basically from the union, and if you're going to go 2% more for making those wages whole, because they did sign contracts this year. If the owners were that devious, then that's fraud. And you can also sue them, because that's misrepresentation. They didn't negotiate. It's all federal law. That could be pulled in there. because if they knew this in advance, these are some things that could come out. And I hate to get to that point, but let's do common sense. You could have a shorter season. You wouldn't play, out of your divisions or whatever else. Have a shorter season, so at least you'd recoup some of the money, and you'd still have the goodwill. And then possibly you could have that game up in Michigan that you normally do on New Year's Day and save something so you still have your brand there. So they could compromise. Will they? See you in July. They'll work a deal out then.
Well, and
people lose.
And here's the thing, the Pittsburgh Penguins management, Mario Lemieux, in this city, he walks on water. He saved hockey in this town more than once, and, we'll be indebted to him forever. But, right now, he's part of the ownership team that is robbing the Pittsburgh fans of the prime years of the careers of Sid Crosby, Evgeny Malkin, Marc-Andre Fleury.
Right.
Here's one thing about professional athletes. Their careers are painfully short, okay? And some of these guys, when you perform at the highest level, you only have to stay at that level for so long. Then your skills start deteriorating.
Sure, we've seen it.
And it happens in a real quick hurry. Now, if they are not competing at a high level, like they're not competing right now, their skills are going to erode. Okay, and then what you're going to have when you come back is a tarnished product, and
it'll be diminished from what the level that we had in the hopes that
2008 and 2009, the Penguins went to back-to-back Stanley Cups, okay? They got close in 2008. 2009, they brought the cup back to Pittsburgh, okay? And we were looking at the beginnings of a dynasty. We were looking for multiple cup championships. And here we are 3 years later. And we've had some pretty humiliating defeats in the first round of the playoffs the last 3 years. So I mean, we've been promised one thing, and it's been coming up short. We do have the most exciting team in the world. We do have the greatest players in the world. Evgeny Malkin, Sid Crosby. If they aren't the 1-2 best players in the world, I don't know who are. I was really looking forward to seeing what Sid Crosby was going to do to the league this year.
Let me give you a silver lining since you brought up Sid. Here's the silver lining. We don't know what that neck injury, head injury, whatever you want to call it, but now he gets an extra year to heal. And they can do all that voodoo stuff. Maybe he'll go like Peyton Manning did and get some stem cell. But think about it. I'd rather have a year if they're really not going to play for Sid. And he's not playing anywhere else.
I was expecting to see out of Sid Crosby this year something akin to what Mario Lemieux and Wayne Gretzky used to do back in the heyday in the 80s. No, I mean, like 70, 80 goal seasons, 200 point seasons. Sid was dying so badly to get back on the ice this year and to prove to the world that he is in fact the best player in the world. We all know this to be true.
Right.
The red lamp would have been lit constantly. I mean, he would
next year.
Yeah, next year
He'll actually be healthier.
I'm being robbed this year, so you know what?
Chip, we all are.
I hold both parties responsible, but the owners, let's not forget, you locked out the players, okay? You are failing to negotiate with them.
And here's the other thing. When you look at what it does to a city, they're costing a lot, not only the fans, but the businesses around Consol Energy, the hotels.
The waitresses,
there's about
the bartenders.
$2.3 million that's brought into town when people have a game here. So that trickle-down effect, the economy's bad enough. We all can admit that.
The city of Pittsburgh itself. And, the city of Pittsburgh can't even pave half the roads that need to be paved. We have snowstorms, and there's people dying because they can't get roads cleared and stuff like that. And we're getting less revenue in because there was 41 dates that we packed that house. I mean, we're on a 3 or 4 year run of sellouts there.
And people coming in from out of town that have season tickets, the hotels.
But on another note, if you're interested in watching some quality hockey,
that's the segue in.
We Marty Galosi from Robert Morris University. We had him on the show last night, and they've got a great hockey product there. This spring, the Frozen Four is going to be at the Consol Energy Center. There's another holiday
in December.
In December, a holiday college hockey tournament. I'll tell you what. You watch this product, you may not miss the Penguins so much. You go down to the ice arena down there on Neville Island. You can see a good quality product. It's rather inexpensive. Tickets can go as little as $9, and the parking's free.
Yeah.
So if you
no
need a
limit
hockey
on the
fix,
parking. You can park there for days. We heard.
Yeah. So you know what? If you need a hockey fix, I'll be down there to watch the Robert Morris Colonials play. Because I enjoy the sport, and I don't like watching games from 5 years ago being replayed on the NHL network. They're trying to do that. That just doesn't do it for me. I'm sorry.
Boston College, one of the best teams, will be there. So you're going to see some guys that are going to go pro. So you'll get to see, it'll be like a minor league game or a semi-pro game here.
Yeah, you don't have to go to Johnstown or down to Wheeling or out to Wilkes-Barre, Scranton.
Although Marty shared something, he goes, you see a lot of Hanson brothers, or at least they're dressed like them there.
Yeah.
So you'll see them in the stands. And I was there last year. I do have a cousin that coaches Pitt hockey D1 team, and we were out there, and it was a nice venue. We got in there. It was actually $5 for a ticket to see the game, and there were women's teams that were playing. It was just great to see hockey, and these kids, they play because they love the game. They do not get scholarships. Matter of fact, Penn State's coming into town in December.
Yeah.
They'll be there, and it's the first year for their team in hockey. So, I mean, that's
and
a great thing. It's a lot of fun. You got kids that love the sport.
Yeah, they love the sport. They play it because they love it. And they're not going to make their professional careers playing hockey in a fair number of them. They're going to they're going to stay in college. They're going to get the degrees. But you know what? The enthusiasm level, if you need a hockey fix, there's some excellent college hockey being played here in the area. Go on to Robert Morris's website.
Go to their website.
Yeah.
I forgot what it is. Marty Galosi, I'm sorry, he's a senior associate, athletic director there. Great guy.
Yeah.
We'll have to have him back on the show. I invited him for tonight, not knowing we'd have 2 miss-outs. So Big Mike and Smoking Jim, I wish you'd have told me in advance. I could have had Marty come in here 2 nights in a row. He's been on the show before. It was about a year ago he was on the show. Really great guy. And we'll have him back again. I promise you that. But check out Robert Morris. They got a nice team up there. They may not do as well as they did last year, but he said they'll be competitive. So check out the hockey. We're great promoters and fans of Robert Morris.
Yeah, because there's a lot of Western Pennsylvania is a hockey hotbed. With the interest.
Well, here to show you, Marty travels from out in Robinson. He comes all the way to Blade Runners here so his son can play hockey. Mm-hmm. So he's driving right in our community here. So here's a guy that supports our community. They pay for the ice time and everything else. So go out there and support the college that he represents there, and you're going to see some great things out there. So
absolutely. Then on the other note, we got Pitt playing their final game against the South Florida Bulls this week, and
one more W.
Miracle of miracles, they've got a reason to be excited, and I guess having a 500 season and being 6-6 is something to get excited about. But
hold it, they got the Player of the Week, Tino. All the bashers talking about how bad he is, and I did see him duck down a couple times. Here's what's funny. You watch announcers and hear announcers. We all watch sports for a long time, I'm sure, and even if you're new to it, you'll hear an announcer go, boy, he went down without even getting hit. Or, boy, look, he just went to the ground. Maybe he could have thrown that pass away. So I think he earned a reputation there. His statistics look unbelievable. If you saw his stats and it didn't have Pitt by his name, you would think the team's 9-1, 10-1 with his stats.
Yeah, but stats are a deceiving figure, because anybody that completes 65-70% of their passes and they don't throw the ball more than 5 yards, I think that's a deceptive statistic. You know what I mean? What impresses me about a quarterback is, does he throw the ball down the field? I'm not saying that every time you throw the ball that you have to throw a 70-yard touchdown pass, but you need to make other throws. I think Tino's professional career as a quarterback, if that's what he so chooses, is going to be an arena ball. Right. Because they've got a nice short field. He doesn't have to throw the ball more than 30 yards. But
you might be a good agent for him. There you go, Tino. Talk to Chip; he'll get you signed up. But here's a stat that when they're winning at halftime, he has a winning record. I don't know, like 16-2 or 16-4. But when they're losing, he hasn't won a game.
Well, he's got one more chance to have a come
So
from behind.
he hasn't
victory.
brought them back.
He hasn't brought them back yet. And
that's one of those signs you talk about of a good quarterback.
I know, of a good leader. See, a quarterback is somebody that takes the snap from center and can throw a pass and hand off to a running back. A leader wins football games.
I stand corrected.
A leader motivates his team and gets them to play harder to achieve things that they would not normally do.
They uplift the other players.
Right. You look what Ben Roethlisberger does for the Pittsburgh Steelers. No matter how badly he's played or how badly the rest of the team's played, when he's at quarterback, there's always the feeling that we have a chance.
Sure.
You know?
Look at how Cleveland would have been. If we would have been down by those 6 points, you know what would have happened. And that's happened. We've been that low, and he's brought us back.
Yeah.
Of course, you can't throw it to Mike Wallace right now in the end zone.
No.
He'd short arm it. So, and then we do have, there's rumors that Troy might come back. We got to touch the Steelers again.
Yeah.
We didn't cover some of the rumors.
Yeah, Troy,
right?
Troy, there's a possibility Troy's going to
Antonio.
practice this week. Antonio Brown is supposed to practice this week with the expectation of playing. So, you know,
and Willie Colon, they're saying he's practicing and he'll be back.
But, really, Lamar Woodley has been having a monster year. I mean, I'll tell you what, he's one of the best outside backers in football. The only problem is the Steelers just have a real difficult time keeping him on the field the last 2 years.
Right.
And I'm not saying anything about Lamar's heart or anything like that. It just seems to be, he seems to be unfortunate in the fact that
he's so big.
He's getting injured. James Harrison is playing his way back into shape the last few games. And, statistically this year, the Steelers are doing well in almost every category but one. In about one category that their defense is playing in, they're about the worst in the league, and it's a lack of turnovers. And that's one thing that the Steelers defense, it was always a high impact. They always got a lot of sacks, a lot of fumbles.
Right. Sacks are weak. And that's what hurt us last year.
And then,
interceptions.
We had one turnover on Sunday in Cleveland. Lawrence Timmons ran it in for a pick six, and we didn't have any others. And that's really, But if you look at what the Steelers defense is doing, they are not allowing opposing offenses to score.
Right.
We played Baltimore. Had it not been for a return punt, Steelers win that football game because basically they gave up 6 points to their defense. We played the Giants.
Right.
We gave up another, I think, 9 points to their offense on 3 field goals. Didn't give up any offensive touchdowns. Look at the Chiefs. The Chiefs didn't score any offensive, and for goodness sakes, we gave the ball to Cleveland 8 times. And they should have beaten us 50-something to nothing.
And this is ironic. They talk about LeBeau earlier in the year. Maybe he's done. Now, we've always said, Chip and I and others on the show here, the players have to produce. He has the right schemes, and even the players have said it on radio and other stations that they have to step up their game, and they have.
They have. I'll tell you what. Pittsburgh's 2 cornerbacks. What is it? Cortez Allen.
Yeah.
And
Keenan Lewis.
Who's it? Keenan Lewis and Ike Taylor.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what. They're playing Pro Bowl caliber.
Look at Ike Taylor when it looked like he was done. And all of a sudden, he come back, and that shows the grittiness, the heart that we talk about.
That shows the heart of a champion, And I'll tell you what, the Steelers, as much as they're being maligned right now, if the season were to end today, the Steelers would be the number 6 seed in the playoffs. As poorly as they played, losing to Tennessee, Oakland, and Cleveland. They still have the chance because the AFC is very weak this year. You've got you've got the Houston Texans.
Right.
You've got the Denver Broncos, and you've got the New England Patriots. Those are the top 3 teams in the AFC. Now, I look at the Baltimore Ravens and their 9-2 record, and I'm not so impressed by their 9-2 record. And I still think, and I'm going to go on record right now saying Steelers beat the Ravens this week in Baltimore.
All right, let's shake on that. I'm with you.
Because a lot of people don't think it's
Ben
possible.
may be there to help
and that is whether Charlie Batch is playing or Ben is playing. Either way, because last week was a humiliating experience for a proud team. There's a lot of guys on there that have played championship caliber football for a long time, and for pride, if nothing else, they're not going to let Baltimore beat them again.
Right. I drink Steeler Kool-Aid all the time. I'm a big fan anyhow. And I did say, they'd be like 11-5, but that's going to be over. But even if they're 10-6, because I thought they would lose, like I said earlier, the 2 Baltimore games, but they do have a chance to run the last 4 games. And that could help there too. And if they win in Baltimore, that definitely will help. And look at some of these teams with Houston who they're going to play, and look at Cleveland. They're not going to be like they are. Cincinnati, okay, they're tied with us. They play some tough opponents. And Baltimore, their defense was 28 a week ago. Now they're up to 17. That might be as far as they go with the defense.
And actually, to be honest with you, and Jim, forgive me on this one, my brother, but Baltimore's defense is better without Ray Lewis right now than it has been with him this year.
It sure looks that way.
And I'm telling you, they're playing much more solid there. Ray Lewis is the emotional leader of that team. He's the heart and soul of that team. 17 years, it's a long time to be in the trenches, and
right.
And here's another question I have, because there's been a lot of talk lately about performance-enhancing drugs and all these players getting suspensions. You see Terrell Suggs. He has surgery on his Achilles tendon, which they say it's going to take 8 to 12 months for him to heal.
Right.
And miraculously, he's back on the field right now. Ray Lewis rips his bicep.
He's coming back.
And he's
tricep. No, he tore his 3 triceps.
Triceps. Okay.
Triceps.
So, and they say he's out for the season. All of a sudden, there's reports that he's coming back. When was the last time either one of these guys were tested? Because the whole thing with performance-enhancing drugs and how they started getting abused, these were drugs that were used to rehabilitate people from severe automobile accidents,
right.
Okay, and to help rebuild muscle tissue. Now, because they're injured and they're healing so fast, makes me wonder how that happens. I just don't believe things.
We're a conspiracy, guys. And here, you're leading to another guy who had crossed the ticker today that I saw, Andy Pettit. Now, he admitted to using HGH to heal faster, and that's what got him in trouble with his buddy. We won't mention his buddy here since that was a long trial, and Chip wore that thing out. You could say
I rode that horse.
You could say that. But part of the thing is, and why wouldn't you be suspicious? Sure, there's great training and rehabbing, but you can only heal under certain circumstances. The body only heals so fast. We're not doctors. Maybe a doctor can call in. 412-831-3304.
Here's the thing. As a young man, when you're in your early 20s, your body heals amazingly quick. As you get older, it takes longer for you to heal from injuries, and I just find it very interesting. Let's just say that as these gentlemen are getting older, that they're finding ways to heal quicker, and it just.
It's suspicious.
It is a cloud of suspicion as far as I'm concerned. I don't want to be making any accusations because I don't want to be anybody to come in.
They can't come after you. This is just our opinions. We're not experts here.
No, we're not experts, but this is just
we're just having some fun.
One of those things I think.
And we're going to have to end that on a happy note with conspiracies. Come see us at Level 20 next Monday. You'll see Pittsburgh Sportsline at Level 20. It's a great venue. You'll enjoy the food. You'll enjoy the conversation. We may even ask you questions. You can come on and get an interview. We do interviews there too. Here's Chip the Prophet Hayner. You heard him say Baltimore is going to lose.
That's right.
Al Levine, the Talking Machine. Thanks for watching the show. I'm sorry you didn't see Smoking Jim Frazier or Big Mike, but remember.
One more plug for Sammy Vasquez Jr.
Thanks for watching the show.